vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. I'm sorry, Senator Chambers, I didn't see I didn't see you in the queue, and you are recognized to speak.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Erdman tried to help out by saying I hadn't turned my light on in time, but he couldn't see far enough up here, and friends do stick together, so he tried, the private tried to bail out General Patton, but the Romalian was prepared tactically and strategically. I support what Senator McGill is doing. I support the bill, and I will vote for it. But I am opposed to parts of Senator Rakes' amendment. That will be a fight for select file. When time came to vote for the bill itself, I voted yes, even though I voted no on those other issues. I will vote for this A bill. It was very tempting for me to join the discussion this morning, but this one dealt with an issue that is so clear, not intending any disrespect or disparagement. Even Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder could see the merit that this bill has. But that does not mean every part of it is meritorious. I will not try to torpedo the bill. I will not try to unduly delay it. I always give myself a little wiggle room, Senator McGill, and you notice I said not unduly delay it. And the one who determines and gives meaning to the word unduly happens to be the one speaking at this moment. I will have a discussion with Senator Rakes between now and the time the bill comes up, and he may be able to persuade me that my concerns are unfounded. If that turns out to be the case, then I will not discuss the bill on select file. And I believe if there are no other amendments offered, there probably won't be any discussion and the bill will move on a voice vote. But if Senator Rakes cannot allay my concerns, I will put an amendment on the bill to make sure it does not move on a voice vote prior to my being able to discuss the bill a bit further. Mr. President, I have to speak for a few more seconds until that number moves from 1149 until 1150, and the necessity for doing that is something which nobody needs to understand other than those who understand already. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Senator Chambers. Senator Chambers, your light was on and now it's off. Do you wish to speak or not? Not. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the legislature, I'm looking at an article from the World Herald, 1999. Here's a comment of mine in that article. Chambers said that if the convention center had a chance of being profitable, it would be financed with revenue bonds, which are paid off with the facility's profits, instead of through general obligation bonds, which are paid off with property taxes. Members of the legislature, almost alone, I pointed out that this was a boondoggle, a sham, and as we're going to be on this a long time, and I'm going to try to have enough time to show you all some articles to show the arguments that I made, and everything I said has come true with a vengeance. Ashford, those businessmen in Omaha, knew that that whole thing was smoke and mirrors. It was never going to turn a profit. They were going to have to come to the state again, and they were here last year, and I helped defeat it, and I'm going to fight it tooth and nail this time. What Senator Rogert is talking about has nothing to do with persuading the legislature to give up part of its tax base. But I'd like to ask Senator Flood a question or two, and since we're going to be on this all day today, we're going to be on it at least 8 hours, and he if it's his bill, of the legislature, who has been deeply the speaker that I've seen in a number of issues on. That's his prerogative because he's also a senator. But this one cuts close to my bone marrow.
Flood, would you yield to a question?
Yes.
Who drafted this bill?
Who drafted the bill?
Who wrote it out?
Senator Ashford and I worked with Representative
of this bill that became this green copy. Who did the writing?
Bill
I know
drafters.
the bill drafter, but who? And you know what I'm talking about, Senator Flood.
I was involved in the process.
Mr. President, is this the one that deals with that new language or the emergency clause?
This is the new language, Senator.
Thank you. Members of the legislature, we haven't even touched the language. You all don't care what goes into this bill. I'll to flood a question, but before I do, he's the one who on my death penalty bill said adopt this amendment, but I'm not going to stand up there and act like people don't offer amendments to bills. They're not poppycock. Senator Flood.
Senator Flood, would you yield to a question?
Yes.
In this new language, what are primary and secondary box office sales? Because that's what we're talking about here.
My understanding is primary and box sales for tickets would be sold at the venue itself. Secondary box sales would be Ticketmaster outlets in the Omaha metro area.
So sales tax is going to be derived from facilities that are in no way connected to, adjacent to, or near the main facility. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Suppose these secondary Lincoln, these sales are made. Sales tax derived from sales in Lincoln because this is according to the 70-30 split or whatever it turns out to be. And if any were sold, well, anywhere in the state. So this is like the long arm of the law, which reaches throughout the state to suck up sales tax revenue. I will ask you at this point, members of the legislature, attributable income or sales tax, which was the first formula, was smoke and mirrors. This is real tax money. Taxes actually in hand that are not coming to the state. This is not a new position for me to try to protect the state's taxing base and its money. How about that general fund and put it into the roads department? Didn't I fight against that? This is not a new position for me to adopt it. In the past, we had others who would defame. And that needs to be done. And for Senator Ashford to say that a swimming venue is a stadium indicates that he doesn't know about swimming and he doesn't know what a stadium is. If they had a swimming meet in the sports arena, that is still an arena. The fact that the swimming doesn't convert it to a structure of a certain type, and it doesn't these that are going on there. To say that this sports arena could become a stadium is crazy, because if that's true, you don't have to put stadium in the bill because arena is already there. It's something different from an arena. Ashford has people just saying stuff off the top of their head. The one who take issue with it is me. But I'm going to keep doing it, and that's paying attention, and it does relate directly to this. Is a state. Omaha is a city. Nothing that the Omaha is a part.
1 minute.
Omaha did this. Omaha came down here. And they gave that crack brain formula to give the impression that the state is not going to be into this for much money, because if the formula doesn't work, it's on Omaha. And they knew it wasn't going to work in Omaha because they said a provision to require a super about this David Sokol and some of these big shots in Omaha and how they're people without honor. but they're lionized and given credit for being so great, so outstanding and honest, because people in this, I started to say this legislature, but I should say this country, are dazzled by wealth. You know what the sun of this universe is? Money. It is the center of the universe in big-time athletics, entertainment, religion, everywhere. Whenever there's something on a big scale, money is what drives it. They are even cutting out of this bill the requirement that when an applicant comes, there should be a consideration of whether or not they can come up with the local match. They're cutting that out of the bill. That should not even be considered by the board. And we're going to get to that because I'm offering amendments, whether Senator Flood likes them or not. And I'm telling you, I want to kill the bill, and by offering them, I will show you things that are wrong with this bill, and I hope you vote down every amendment that I offer, because you will know what a bad piece of legislation you're putting in place. And those who brought it cannot even explain all of it because it was given to them and it's being shunted off onto us. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Members of the legislature, this is an amendment which Senator Flood said he would be happy to accept and run with if it would get me off the bill. Well, it won't. But I'm just offering these amendments to show defects in the bill. If you turn to page 9 of the green copy of the bill, that's what we're working right now, and go to line 9, I would strike the word 70 and insert 60. Then, in line 24, I would strike, in line 23, I would strike and show as stricken the word 30 and insert 40. It would change this split from 70-30 to 60-40. The 70% would go to the Omaha boondoggle. 40% would be what it takes to buy out the ruralies. You heard Senator Flood laying out the amounts, the piddling amounts that these little communities would get. And I think Senator Harms said there was no other way they could get them. How much is your virtue worth? If this bill is enacted, my good friend Senator McGill, and we run short on money, this obligation that's on the state will continue to be there. What did that wily old fox, Senator Rakes, put into your breakfast program? The prorating language. So that when a cut has to be made because we're on hard times, Omaha's boondoggle is not touched. But your program to provide breakfasts for hungry children can be cut, and they wanted that language in the bill because, unlike Senator Gay, they remember things that have happened in the past. And they know that whereas history may not repeat itself in the sense of an exact replication like an echo, similar circumstances can come into play. The state can fall upon hard times. What are they telling us about the road building program? That because people are not using as much gasoline because it's so high, they've got to find a way to supplement the road building program. Instead of saying they'll cut back on building roads that go nowhere, they want to keep that going for the general contractors and others who make money from that boondoggle. So they are going to suck that money every year out of the general fund or away from the general fund. This boondoggle is going to suck its money away from the general fund. And you can draw a picture, Senator McGill, of these little children with the large, sorrowful eyes, tears coming down their cheeks, distended bellies, and they're hungry because they don't have food at home. so they can't eat breakfast. Oh, but we'll take care of Omaha. I had said I was tempted to talk on your bill this morning, but I didn't, and I want to get some assurances from Senator Rakes, but I might fight on select file some of those issues. That proration language, I had to get that out of an ADC bill many, many years ago, because they were always cutting the poor families, the women and the children. And I fought it and fought it and fought it, and finally got something done about it. They put that language back intentionally, deliberately, so that when the state falls on hard times, the sacred cows will be left untouched. The road department, the Omaha boondoggle. There are a lot of people in Omaha. Many will be pleased if you vote for this bill. Everything Omaha has done, Senator Nelson doesn't want to talk about it. Senator Harms doesn't know about it. Senator Gay doesn't care about it. They built a hotel that was supposed to be great. And apparently that's not working the way they wanted it to. So now what money would be available from that structure in the form of sales tax is going to be taken off the table. And another bad financial decision made by the leaders and the smart people in Omaha is going to be underwritten by the state at a net loss to the general fund. You all are state senators. So if I don't look after the money, who is? And then when you come up here for your programs, I don't know if I'm going to feel the same way about UNL. If this bill passes, I might try to deduct $2 million from UNL's appropriation, and that won't hurt them very much. But we've got to find a way to make this thing revenue neutral. You want to give it to the hotel? You want to give it to stadiums? Give it to them then. And underwrite bad political and financial decisions by people in Omaha who do know better, but they don't have to care because they can always come down here and get a chuckle-headed legislature to go along with it and get a new young senator to introduce the bill for them. Then they can wash their hands and say, we didn't do it. A guy from out there in North Platte is one of those cities that starts, the first three letters are N-O-R. So it might be North Platte. No, maybe it's Plattsmouth. Yeah, that young senator from Plattsmouth, right outside Omaha, they got this young senator from Plattsmouth to bring it. And then somebody will say, Senator Flood's not from Plattsmouth. They'll say, well, he's from someplace that sounds like that. North Platte, okay. Senator Flood from North Platte brought, no, he's not from North Platte. So then they'll start racking their brain. What city has N-O-R in it? Norfolk. Well, yeah, that's by process of elimination. They wouldn't know Senator Flood from Adams House Cat if they saw him. But people will know his name because he carried water for Omaha at a net loss to the fund that we are supposed to be concerned about. So I'm going to keep being very blunt, very direct, because we all have names. And our names identify us so people know who it is who did such and such. When we put our fingerprints out there and they run those fingerprints through the crime bureau or whatever they use, then if those fingerprints match and a picture comes up in a name, bingo, that's you. Well, when we see all these fingerprints and smudges all over LB 551, that young senator from either Plattsmouth, North Platte, or Norfolk, or wherever he came from out there, is the one who did it. And senators is popping up on this floor talking about how great this is for rural Nebraska. If you had any gumption about yourself, you'd offer a bill to help the rural areas. That's what you ought to do. But you need an excuse, you need an alibi to go along and hitch your wagon to Omaha. That's what you need. But you don't have what it takes to offer a straight-up bill to help the rural economy. I come closer to doing that than the rural senators do, so they sit back quiet and scared and shaking like leaves on a tree. Then here comes big Omaha who scares them. And they say, well, look, here's how you can do it. This is going to save rural Nebraska. Omaha gets $1,700,000. Well, you get the rest. You get the crumbs. And those crumbs, less than $1 million, will save rural Nebraska. And they jump and say, hallelujah, I've been saved. And then they follow along. And then stand on this floor, and with the fervor of a Billy Sunday, who is one of those fire and brimstone evangelists, support a boondoggle for Omaha that's going to hurt the general fund. Then when that budget bill comes out here, or some of your pet programs come, and there's not money, you're going to whine and cry and say, but this is a worthwhile program. Well, the money's not there. That's what you're going to be told. Then what will you say? I'm trying to save you from yourself. And I'm going to do it whether you like it or not. But if I don't get that done, I'm going to extract 8 hours of time from this session, not only on this bill, but others. And I'm going to watch you all get together and defeat me. I'm going to watch you all legislate by cloture. And then see how responsible people think you are, because they're going to look at the issues that you clotured on. And the reason you clotured was because you had a bad bill, but you had strong lobbyists behind the bill, so you sucked up to them and did what they told you to do. Then you gave all these cockamamie arguments. The past is past. I even heard somebody almost as old as I am say, we got to forget the past. Mr. President, members of the legislature, the Omaha official dumb, and I put an emphasis on dumb, and I'd spell it OFFICIALDUMB. Omaha official dumb will make dumb decisions and get this legislature to bail them out, but they won't make difficult political decisions. Let them make the political decisions that they were hired for. But why should they? All rivers, electricity, and cowardly people follow the path of least resistance. You are facilitating irresponsibility on the part of Omaha officials. Why should they worry about anything when they can come down here and make you all do it? They started out with this formula, and since it gives my young friend Senator Gay heartburn, and I don't want to kill him off because he has potential. I don't want to kill him off, so I'm going to forget that part of the past, and let's deal with the present. They want to load a hotel that was a bad decision onto this bill. They want to load stadiums on this bill. You all don't know because you haven't read the bill and you don't care. You're going to swallow whatever they give you. That's the present, Senator Gay. That's not the past. If the problem is with the Quest Senator not having what it needs, why are they loading these other facilities onto it? It doesn't just say existing facilities. They can construct, reconstruct, they can acquire. All that's in the present law. And it'll tie automatically into what you're doing here. So next year, what will they do after they get the suckers to go along with that? Yeah, that's what the people are who vote for this bill. Suckers. I ought to rename that bridge over the Missouri River and sell it to y'all and tell you it's the Brooklyn Bridge. That I cut a deal with Donald Trump and he had it transported down here to Nebraska, and that's the Brooklyn Bridge, and I'll sell it to you for $100,000. And y'all would be breaking down my door to buy the Brooklyn Bridge spanning the Missouri River. That's how dumb people see you as being, or at least how dumb I see some people here as being. Tell me how dumb I am. And then we'll compare records and see whose conduct manifest being dumb. I know the importance of the past, and I know the importance of looking at the record of politicians. When you all run, there are people who are going to talk about your record, and I bet you won't stand up to them and say to the public, well, that's past, I don't want to talk about that. You'd be trying to scrape up everything you did that can be through any interpretation made to appear to have been a positive thing. You will talk about the past, and others will. But when the past is something you don't want to look at, you say, forget it. Slavery is one of those examples. That's why it's not talked about, because it's so unpleasant. And this bill came out of a tortured, dishonest past. How can something clean come out of an unclean thing? If you foul the source of the water, is that water which passes through it going to not be befouled also? Well, you can understand that with water, but you can't understand it with this. this may be a little too abstract. You were lied to. You were tricked. You were duped. You were suckered. You were bamboozled. But all that is in the past. Don't talk about that. Talk about this. Well, none of you have talked about the hotels that are being added. None of you have talked about the stadiums.
1 minute.
You haven't showed the connection between any of those things and this bill, except they're too smart for you. They want to draw in as many tax-producing or generating activities and facilities as possible to take that money from those entities and not let it go to the state, but go to pay off the results of the bad political decisions made by the official dumb, with the emphasis on the D-U-M at the end, of Omaha. I ought to run for the city council when I get out of here. I would have y'all, Omaha would be like the, I better not tell my plans. Because if the sleeves of my coat knew my plans, as I say, I should have to burn my coat. But think about that. Who was that who said if you find one, bump his head, and there's one born every minute? Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Mr. President, members of the legislature, I don't care whether you adopt this amendment or not. If you adopt it, I'm still against the bill. I'm like Senator Flood was when we adopted his amendment to my anti-death penalty bill. I want to call attention to various things. And I have other amendments, too, to put in better form some of the language that is already in this bill. There's one part where they talk about hotels, and then they define a hotel, but there are other facilities that they mention, and they say something about the hotel after they discuss those other two items, something about where the public for consideration can have sleeping accommodations. Well, it could seem like the sleeping accommodations are found in those other facilities besides the hotel, because the hotel is mentioned on line 1, then these others intervene, then you put the sleeping accommodations on the last line. So I'm going to do some rewriting, and you can reject that too, but it'll give me time to talk. I like this amendment. There's a symmetry about it. You know why I say there's a symmetry? If you add 60 plus 40, it comes out 100. What could be more symmetrical than that? If you add what is in the present law, 70 plus 30, that also comes out 100. But however you cut anything in this bill, it amounts to a net loss to the general fund of at least $2 million, and it could be more depending on how much in sales tax is generated by these facilities. It's interesting that Senator Rogert would tell us how much money is being brought in to these facilities, but they got to get the state to bail them out. I'd venture to say that neither Senator Carlson, Senator Christensen, who is not here, either one of them, or Senator Heidemann and others interested in the Republican River Basin, all that general area, I'm sure they would not be asking us to enact that bill that is before us if torrents of water just suddenly began to flow through Nebraska. Every river had water spilling over the banks. Every stream had water spilling over the banks. Well, now that there's plenty of water, and Kansas, instead of saying, give us more, are saying, can't you hold some of this back? We wouldn't need to worry about rationing water, anything about restricting the drilling of wells, no worry about paying Kansas money because the amount of water they're entitled to is not coming their way. Plenty of water. That solves the problem. Senator Rogert told us about all the money that's coming in, all these wonderful acts, some that I'd never heard of before. And if he just read them off, I wouldn't even know what he's talking about, as he said. So why then are they asking the legislature to bail them out? Something is not connecting in all that we're being told. But Senator Rogert is new also. He's a team player. He wants to be with the Omaha Royals. Who are the Omaha Royals? I'd like to ask Senator Aguilar a question.
Senator Aguilar, would you yield to a question from Senator Chambers?
Certainly will.
Senator Aguilar, do you know who the Omaha Royals are?
Yeah, I think I do.
Who are they?
I believe that's like a farm team for the Kansas City Royals.
Wrong. Sit down. Senator Flood, I'd like to ask Senator Friend a question.
Senator Friend, would you yield to a question from Senator Chambers? And Senator, you have 1 minute.
Senator Friend.
Yes, I will.
Who are the Omaha Royals?
The Omaha Royals are a baseball team.
Wrong. Sit down. I'll tell you who they are. Michael Yanni, David Sokol, Warren Buffett, and there's another, Walter Scott. Those are the Omaha Royals. Walter Scott, some call him Sir Walter Scott, and Warren Buffett owned about 50% of the Omaha Royals team, and they were trying to get the legislature to give some money to build a stadium for them. And this Warren Buffett is the one who criticized people in California for not paying enough in property taxes. Those are the Royals, the royalty. Thank you, Mr. President.